this country are come first,
Okay,
and not the other way around.
Would you accept the criticism that came from your Home Secretary on this issue, that maybe you've been a little eye taken off the ball? I think we have cruised a bit on this because we were tackling issues like counter-terrorism. We let the focus slip.
And he said that some time ago, I think, and I think it's quite...
To October 2009,
yeah, but we've
so
taken,
6 months ago.
We've taken action to improve neighbourhood policing over these last few months, to introduce a victims commissioner, to make sure that antisocial behaviour is being dealt with new rights. If you do not get...
Is he right? Is he right? Did you let the focus slip?
No, I didn't.
But, did the government?
I didn't.
Well, Alan Johnson saying the government did?
I didn't. We were involved in anti-terrorism, counter-terrorism. Look, for a while...
We've cruised a bit on this. We let the focus slip.
Hold on, John. The first part of your film showed that we had a bomb in Britain, two bombing attempts in Britain in 2007.
No one's denying that.
We certainly had to increase the emphasis on counter-terrorism, and I spent a huge amount of time, and we've doubled the staff available to counter-terrorism. But as far as antisocial behaviour, in the last few weeks, we've said, look, if, as in the case that you're mentioning, someone is persistently subject to antisocial behaviour and the police are not prepared to act, then you've got a right to take out an injunction in the courts at the expense of the authority that hasn't acted. So we are trying to make the rights of people who are affected by antisocial behaviour greater, and I do believe that the future is in neighbourhood policing.
Okay, Nicola,
sorry, I think in a way we're tackling these things in the same way. We're talking about terrorism and antisocial behaviour. For me, there's something fundamental underneath those things. It's the way people feel about things, and what they feel they're putting into society and what they feel they're getting back. And I think you've got to tackle the causes of both these things. You can't just fight everything. You've got to look at the causes of things. You can't just police people. You can't just put them in prison, because the problem carries on. The same with the terrorism issue. It's the way people feel about a situation and what they're getting and what they give. And that's why a lot of young people engaged in antisocial behaviour, because they don't know what else to do. Their education hasn't been sufficient. They're not given positive opportunities to engage.
Very briefly, Prime Minister.
Well, I did an experiment a few months ago. I got a group of young people together and a group of older people together. The young people decided that they didn't have proper youth services and the old people were being too hard on them. The old people decided, when they were on their own, that young people were behaving very, very badly, and rightly something had to be done. I then brought them all together and they agreed amongst themselves that we had to do more to tackle those people engaged in antisocial behaviour, because they were a threat to young people as well as old people, but we also had to do more about youth facilities so that young people could have no excuse for being on the streets and causing trouble. And I think that's where the country is. We've got to do something about both these issues, and that's the crime and the causes of crime, as you mentioned.
OK, let us talk now, a kind of final area of discussion, if you like, which is about character and personality, which you've said you want to make a kind of central part of this election. I wonder whether, James, I could ask you to put your question.
Prime Minister, at the moment, you've got your job by default. You have never been elected Prime Minister. The last Labour Prime Minister that got his job by default couldn't make up his mind to hold an election in October. Events overwhelmed him and he lost the election. It was the same with you. You couldn't make up your mind to have that election in October because Mr. Cameron put you off with his very good speech at the party conference. Now, are events going to overwhelm you, and are you going to lose the next election?
Well, people will have to judge me on what I do.
Can you make a decision?
We've come through probably the most difficult global financial recession the world has seen. Britain has come through it. We led the way out of it. I had to make decisions that were difficult, didn't know that other countries would follow it, and I made the right decisions on the recession to get us out of it. We've got half the unemployment we had in the last recession. We've got far less mortgage repossessions. Remember the 15% interest rates in the last recession. And we've saved small businesses that will otherwise go under. Now, I had to make decisions every day, and on each of these issues, the Conservatives opposed us. On each of these issues, they were wrong. So I will stand on my record of making big decisions and making the right decisions for the country.
Yeah, Prime Minister. At the age of 21, I was allowed to vote. And ever since then, I've always voted Labour, right the way through till last general election. I honestly don't think I can do that again this year. We were promised a referendum on the Lisbon Treaty. We didn't get it. There was a 10 pence tax fiasco. Your performance, which in my opinion deserved an Oscar at the Chilcot inquiry, the claims you've made, I honestly don't think I can vote Labour with you as leader.
Well, I was telling the truth at the Chilcot inquiry. So it wasn't a performance. I answered the questions that were put to me,
Yeah, the thing
and I
you were saying
continue to
is,
do so.
over 10 years, or over this Parliament's
Let's not
lifetime-
reopen the whole issue of
No,
defence spending. Go. I think you've made your point. You're undecided, yeah.
I think what you could have said at the Chilcot inquiry is that you made a mistake, and that you could have categorically said that Tony Blair led us into a war that was ill-conceived.
Okay, I tell you what, no, but let's not go back to...
What I did say was that the look, hardly anybody died in the initial battle to take control of Iraq. It was done in a few days. But it then took us 7 years to sort out the country. And what I said was very clear, that mistakes were made in planning the reconstruction of Iraq. And that's where the violence was, and that's where the difficulties arose, and that's where we had to have done better. And that's the point I made to the inquiry.
Let me just come back to this sort of issue of character, because I think, Mr. Sage, you were worried as well about the way the sort of plotting went on for Gordon Brown to succeed Tony Blair.
Yes. I think once again, when it's come to crucial times in your life, it's happened to all of us, you have to make a decision. You seem not to be able to make that decision.
I think you're wrong.
If you'd made a decision in the first place, you'd have probably become leader of the Labour Party in the beginning. If you'd made a decision in that October, you would be now Prime Minister in your own right. Events are going to overwhelm you, and you're going to be swept away. It looks like you are going to be another Labour administration, and someone like me who supported the Labour Party all my life, I'm going to have a choice of voting for an old Etonian again. I mean, this is because you have allowed it to happen.
I'm sorry, what happens to me is not the most important thing. It's what happens to the country.
That's exactly.
And we have a choice.
Well, we're relying upon you.
You can choose a government that is trying to take us through this recession and secure the recovery, or a party that would actually wreck the recovery and cause higher unemployment. And you can choose a government that is determined, and we talked about it at the beginning, to get these new jobs for the future and to build the new industries, or a government that's got no industrial policy at all. And you can choose a government that is going to protect these frontline services, and I know it's difficult because we've heard about all the difficulties that people experience in health and education, but it's the right thing to do to have better schools and better hospitals and better policing, or a Tory party that's going to have blanket cuts. Now, I'm saying to you, take a second look at us, but take a very, very hard look at the Conservative Party.
You've had 13 years.
Let me just ask you this, Prime Minister. One of the things you said that you didn't like about politics is the trivialisation, the celebrity element, the kind of using one's family as props on this. And yet we've seen your wife Sarah introduce you at the last two Labour Party conferences, sitting in the audience with Piers Morgan. We've got Samantha Cameron appearing on television in an interview as well. Does that trivialise, does that debase politics?
Well, first of all, I decided we would not bring our children into politics. Look, I've decided to be a politician, and that's for people to judge whether they still want me to be that politician. My wife is supporting me, and we work together on this, and she's made that decision. But my children haven't made that decision, so they should be kept. You know, they're not there to be... I've got to protect their childhood, and I think everybody would respect that. As far as my life and what I do, you know, ask me the questions you want to ask me, and I'll answer them. And that's why I've done... look, if you read one or two of the newspapers, you get one impression of a person. If you do a television programme and say, ask any questions you want, you know, please do so, and then people can make up their own minds. And, you know, I'm here in politics not because I want celebrity, not because I want to be famous, not because I want money, not because I want anything to do with power for its own sake. I'm here because I want the jobs that you were talking about, I want the better health service that you wanted to talk about, I want to protect the victim that you were talking about, I want communities to be safe, and I want people to feel that their potential is being realised. Now, when I stop being able to do that job, I should stop being able to put myself forward as a candidate for anything.